Have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today and make yourself look good.
Hello, welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. This is Rob G. You were expecting Dave Scott. Dave Scott is actually in a pretty bad storm right now, so I'm filling in for the gentleman tonight, and we have an awesome guest tonight, which is Mr. Kevin Day. Couldn't have been at a better time. This thing just fell in my lap, this opportunity to go ahead and speak to Kevin Day. So this should be awesome. I'm so glad to be able to step in for Dave Scott tonight and do the thing tonight, guys. We have Kevin Day for hours 1 and 2, which we're starting late, so we'll end at the same time. So we have about an hour and a half with Kevin Day, and then in hour 3, we should be getting Robin to come on in, Robin Haynes, to do the Bigfoot paranormal report. So it should be awesome. So glad to be here with you guys. So let me go ahead and see who got the medal positions for tonight as we go ahead and hop back in the chat. Let's take a look here. We have, I know it's Race Fan, but actually it looks like it's Robert Lamoth Jr. with the gold tonight. Race Fan showing with the silver, JSCL 77 with the bronze, and it could be the way YouTube refreshes the chat, so could be Race Fan with the gold. Not sure, but let's go ahead and get ready to get into this tonight. Let me go ahead and start the radio side and get the intro going, guys. Here we go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on digital platforms all around the world. If you haven't known, you can go ahead and access our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to the man, the myth, the legend, Bumblefoot, and oh, so much more. Just as I said, we're going to have an awesome show. Mr. Kevin Day is right here, right now, about to join us. He's in the back. We're going to go ahead, bring him forward, and get into the conversation. So without further ado, let me go ahead and reach to the backstage and bring forward the man of the hour, Mr. Kevin Day. How are you, Kevin?
I'm awesome. Thank you for the show invite, you guys. Appreciate it.
It is an honor to be able to sit here and talk to you. I just want to say that first and foremost. Anyone who is into this subject or this topic has seen your face on some sort of program in regards to one of the most famous incidents recorded. So we're going to be jumping into that for sure. But just like with any guest, right? First time meeting, first time interviewing, I kind of like want to get to know Kevin Day, the person, the man. How did you grow up? Were you ever into paranormal stuff? Did you have any sort of dealings with UFOs, aliens, or any of this stuff? If you wouldn't mind going into that.
That's actually a extremely important question, I think, for myself. And when you asked, get to know who I am, I have to tell you, I'm still doing that myself. So,
hey,
yeah. Anyway, I was raised in a little town called Cave Junction, Oregon, in the southwest part of Oregon. It's back when I was growing up, a little lumber community. Timber and logging and sawmills were the big employment companies here. It was a pretty small little town, like 400 people or so. My family had been here for over 100 years, gold mining back in the Kalmiopsis wilderness. So my roots here are pretty deep. At any rate, my itchy feet took me, and I ended up graduating high school up in Albany, Oregon, with my father, Gene Day. And after that, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I wasn't a jock in high school, and I wasn't, I didn't go home and study every night like, a lot of people do. Yeah. I was mostly playing sports outside. I was going hiking and camping, snow camping, rock climbing, skiing, that type of stuff, local search and rescue, that type of stuff. And so that kind of got me interested in being a foreign exchange student. So I went ahead and I applied, and I was selected, and I went to Australia in 1980. And that really whet my appetite. So I went back home, got my 2-year general studies degree, spent about 3 years in the Midwest, if you can believe it or not, selling encyclopedias from door to door. And I learned something very valuable that helped me out later in life, and that was learning how to get yelled at. Yeah. So after getting yelled at once too often, I ended up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where I became a ski bum. Cleaned the school at nighttime and went skiing in the daytime. And I decided I wanted to join the Navy. And by then I was a little bit older, and I think that served me well, because I think I was also a little bit wiser, because I joined the Navy, I did the boot camp thing, went to radar school. It was operations specialist A school. And there was about 90 people in the class. And at the time it was strictly male, which, no longer is, thank goodness.
Right.
And, I did really well. I graduated number 1 out of 90 students, and I did that on purpose so I could get choice of my orders. I wanted to have a say where I was going to go instead of being just told. And I picked the latest and greatest spy radar ship out of San Diego, California, USS Vincennes. And my first deployment, we were over in the Gulf. Iran-Iraq War was heating up. We're in Persian Gulf. They're getting ready to shut down oil shipment in the Gulf. And, tensions were pretty high, just like we find them today. And we were out there, we were patrolling the straits, and our helicopter was airborne. And you know what? There's going to be times during this interview, I'll just give you a heads up, Mr. G, I'm going to get emotional.
Yeah, that's totally fine, sir.
This story is moving. My first deployment, I didn't know anything, I did well in school, but so what, And I was a very junior watchstander. I was standing non-involved navigation watch, really. You know, I wasn't involved in, put it this way, in a combat situation, I wasn't the guy, you know, making those kind of decisions, shooting missiles and guns and that kind of stuff. Anyway, I had found myself right behind Captain Rogers, standing probably 5 feet behind him. And we were in the Straits, and apparently our helicopter got too close to the international line with Iran, and rightfully so. You know, they came out and they checked us out with their bulk hammer fast patrol boats. And to this day, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but our helicopter ended up getting shot at. And we went to general quarters, and we're trying to recover the helicopter, and the bulk hammers came at us. And at one point, we were surrounded by them. We ended up sinking 9 of them.
Wow.
And at this time, you know, we're trying to get the helicopter back on board the ship and, you know, survive.
Yeah.
And it was pretty confusing. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, man, this could get ugly. You know, a year ago, the USS Stark had gotten hit by an Iranian F-14 exocet missile right in the side of it, killed 37 sailors.
Wow.
I mean, this is serious. And my job had me right behind. I was standing right behind. I could see the large screen displays right in Combat Information Center. And all the decision makers are seated right in front of me. And a lot of them stood that same watch with me. I just happened to be on watch when we went to general quarters in the morning. And all of a sudden, this lone aircraft launches out of Iran, Bandar Abbas. And here we are in general quarters in a live surface engagement. And this aircraft had was coming right over us. And there was a bunch of commotion. I kept overhearing on the net and yelled out, you know, and verbally, F-14, F-14. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, Kevin, you've been standing here on this watch for what, 2 months? And I don't think that's an F-14. But I couldn't say nothing. You know, I could have gotten us all killed by speaking out of school, you know.
Right.
I didn't have anything to go on other than just a gut feeling. I knew. I didn't know what the hell to do. I was just about ready to tell Captain Rogers, sir. And all of a sudden he stands up in combat and yells out, make goddamn sure they ain't a comm error. I was like, oh my God, yes, yeah. And some more yelling took place and something about electronic warfare suite, ES. And next thing I knew, he reaches up, pickles the key, 2 missiles.
Wow.
We killed 296 people.
Wow.
Well, you know, it wasn't on purpose. It was a flight 655, Iranian flight 655. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. When I was going to college, one of my best friends was Iranian.
Wow.
I spent a lot of time with that cat. You know, he described all about his home country, and I was into it at the time. I was an exchange student. I'd met people from all over the world. And for me, Iran was just another brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I almost got out, Mr. D. And I was having I woke up and I said, you know what, Kev? You can't get out, brother. You got to make goddamn sure this never happens again.
Yeah.
I was able to turn that into a real source of power. And it let me kick ass in the Navy, which I did, which I really, really did. I ended up on 6 seagoing tours, 8 different deployments or so. I don't even remember how many. Went through all the bush wars, what I call them, bush wars. Became one of the top trainers in the Navy, went to Top Gun school, Top Gun intercept controller. Now, if you fast forward, that was my very first deployment. 20 years later, I found myself on the USS Princeton back in San Diego. And it was my last underway on a ship when Tic Tac happened. You know how much time I had on a ship by the time that thing went down? And that kind of brings us up to the Tic Tac encounter. But I've spoken a lot already, so and I didn't give you a chance to.
Yeah. And I want you to definitely have the floor, and I do appreciate you being so transparent and so open. And you know, the emotions, just like you said before, is what gets you through this and made you a stronger person. So I first of all want to thank you for your service. Everything that you've done is not. I know it's not an easy thing. I never was brave enough to step out and do that. So I can always appreciate and thank those that have the courage to kind of go out there and defend people like myself, right? And the country as well. So awesome stuff. You are stronger than you know. And you know, moving in, to the Tic Tac, because you obviously are a part of one of the biggest moments in UFO history, if you want to look at it. So you're already a legend at this point. So just so you know that all the work that you've done that's led you to this point, you have been stamped at this point as someone that no one will forget. You will forever be connected and known. For some people out there, I mean, a lot of us know the details, but if you wouldn't mind kind of taking us through what happened that day, and you know, we'll go from there.
Yeah, and just so you know, becoming a legend was never part of my plan.
Never is. It never is. It never is.
I didn't seek it, and I still don't. But anyway, we were out to sea, and the strike group, NIMITZ strike group, was getting ready to go on deployment. And I wasn't going with them. I had already gotten orders. I was going over to Commander Naval Air Forces Pacific, right across the bridge over to Coronado Island. And as I had mentioned, I was a very senior trainer at that time. I was combat systems training team lead for air defense. And my role at the time was to not actually be standing the training watch, but I was an evaluator. I had headsets on, a long tail. I was walking all over the air side, taking notes, because I had to write an after action report, lessons learned, so we could do some fine tuning for training before the strike group went on deployment. And when the ship pulled back into port, I was getting off. I was leaving, and you know, I was senior, and didn't know if I was going to retire, and I was an E8 senior chief, and I was kind of hinging it upon if I was going to make master chief or not, if I was going to stay in or not. I was open to it. So anyway, I'm up in combat, in which I spent. That was basically my working office. I had another office, but I was seldom up there. I liked being in combat better. So I went up to combat, and I was like, well, what? Because our ballistic missile defense team had spotted these objects, and they were coming from, and I won't say precisely how far, but it's been published at 80,000 feet, sub-Earth orbit. And they were appearing out of groups of 5 to 10 at a time, and they would drop. They would start at 80,000 plus feet, I guess, and they would drop down to between 20 and 28,000 feet in the blink of an eye, as a group, right off the east coast of Catalina Island, which
Wow.
they're in SoCal, you know, is right off Huntington Beach. And they would hang out there, and we were down about probably 60, 70 miles to the southwest of them in our operating area, Whiskey 291. And it's a warning area. It's not, in other words, if Cessna flies in there, I can't make them leave, but they're warned not to go in there because we're doing live, actually flying aircraft. We're not doing live fire. I almost said live fire, but that's not what we were doing at all. We don't do it there. But, you know, it's a warning area. Warn them out of there and escort them out, you know, in a friendly way. So in safety of flight reasons, right? Anyway, but those little objects caught my interest because we're out here doing our thing. And one by one, these things would leave the main group and they would go. And remember, these things could travel thousands of feet in less than a second.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is they would leave the main group one by one, and they would track real slow in comparison, like 100 knots, right through the middle of our operating area, right above us. And then every single one of these tracked all the way down to Guadalupe Island off the coast of Mexico. And after a time, I started noticing every single one of these disappeared in the same spot in the sky, about 60 miles north of Guadalupe Island. And I started keeping notes, mental notes, like, what in the hell? And at the time, we didn't have aircraft aboard the NIMITZ. They hadn't flown on board yet, because the entire NIMITZ Tic Tac encounter lasted about between 6, 7, 8 days or so. And during that time, we had several groups, and if you added up all the objects that we had tracked on radar, about 100 objects.
Wow.
That's to my recollection. And so, I wasn't real concerned, and I was frantically trying to figure out, because in the back of my mind, okay, it's either a computer glitch of some kind. So we brought that on all the systems, and everybody in the strap group did the same thing. Kicked the tires, everything, brought it all back up. So we determined it wasn't a computer glitch, radar glitch of any type. So my second thought, okay, it's another training exercise put on top of mine, which, first of all, is illegal, because you're not supposed to do that, because things get broken, people die. Mm-hmm. So I was looking in all the publications, the notice to air mariners, everything I could find, all the message traffic, confidential, secret, and there was nothing. And I started to grow more and more concerned, especially when the air wing embarked on the NIMITZ, because within the next day or so, we were getting ready to do a major air defense exercise, where, for example, if this is the aircraft carrier, our job is to defend it from things coming from the beach. Mm-hmm. So we set up combat air patrol stations in the sky to defend us. Everything's pre-planned and pre-briefed, everything. And in this case, we're doing a training exercise. We don't have any weapons or nothing like that. It's all mock training. So the role players for the adversary aircraft are launching out of Miramar, and they're going to come at us, and we're going to do air defense right there in Whiskey 291. And right then, another group comes out of sub-Earth orbit and sets station right off Catalina Island. And I'm thinking, okay, these things are going to do the same thing again, track right through my training area. And now they're their issue for me, because my number one concern was safety of flight beyond anything else.
Right.
So the captain comes down to combat, Captain Smith, and I said, hey, sir, we've been tracking these things for a few days now, and your senior chief right here has no idea at all, never seen anything like this, and I'm gravely concerned, because if we launch and we do our exercise and something bad happens, someone's going to ask you and I, sir, why we were so damn curious. And I let that sink in for a second. And he looks at me gravely and says, you're right, Senior Chief, Intercept VID. Boy, that made my day. So I went over the air side, and I was greeted by a bunch of happy eyes, I can tell you that. So anyway, Fast Eagle 01 launches under Captain Dave Fravor, another Top Gun grad, one of the damn finest pilots that he's ever produced. Just the kind of guy he was, Fast Eagle 01. We take control of him like we normally would, but we cancel training, and we shift to real world. And I'm the evaluator, right? So my person under instruction is sitting right in front of me, the actual air intercept controller, who, by the way, has never gone public. And at some point, I hope everyone else will also decide to go public, but I'm not real hopeful at this point anymore. Anyway, we take control and we intercept Fast Eagle 01 to the closest object to us, about 30 miles northeast of us at the time. And he gets in the same piece of airspace. Fast Eagle 01 and 02, they usually fly in groups of two. And he gets to the merge plot position, which is, if you're looking on a two-dimensional radar display, and again, we're not looking at raw radar, we're looking at symbology. So real quickly, you can look at a screen and tell who's who in the zoo. But when those two symbols overlapping. It's called a merge plot at altitude, right? So he's at 20,000 and the object's at 20,000. And we're looking at it with our radar. And as soon as he's in that spot, this thing drops from that position down to 50 feet above the surface of the water in 0.78 seconds. Right? No sonic boom, no nothing. He goes chasing it down, and whatever this thing was, it recognized him. And you'll understand why I say him, and I'm saying him on purpose. They get into a little dogfight, and we had the comms in the overhead radio. You have to remember, Commander Fravor he had thousands of hours in this, been in all the wars, just like I had been, and pretty accomplished pilot.
Yeah.
And also the next thing we hear is, oh my God, I'm engaged. Just pooping his pants. Not because he was frightened in a traditional sense, like an enemy, just the sheer shock of bewilderment. Like, what in the, and right then, these are his words. Whatever that thing was, disappeared right in front of him. And you know where it went, G? You know where it went? It went to his assigned combat air patrol station.
Yeah, I heard that.
His. And we had, 6 of them set up at the time? And not close exactly on it. Lat long in altitude. So, the air wing on the NIMITZ is still launching, because we launched in cycle, right? So, again, training's canceled. And before I know it, we have autonomous intercepts happening with these objects. And we have intercepts going on, right? And before I know it, there's these UFOs raining from the sky. Dropping from the sky. And so we canceled training. Definitely the airspace was unsafe for training, and the ship went back to port without ever doing the training. During the night after Fast Eagles Air 1's intercept, apparently I was in my rack trying to get some sleep. A helicopter, which was common, you don't usually wake up every time there's a helicopter coming and going. You'd never sleep. Apparently a helicopter had landed on the ship, on the Princeton, and some people wearing civilian clothes came on board the ship, and they took all of our data, our radar. Now, when I say take, they made electronic copies. And because, a lot of our stuff are physical, bolted down to the ship.
Mm-hmm.
But they took our communications and radar and electronic signature data. And not only that, they told the computer central personnel to erase all the blank tapes.
Wow.
And no explanation. No nothing ever. Just left us hanging. And, that's the part I have problems with. It's fine that if they were trying to protect us, national security and all that kind of stuff. And I often try to wear those shoes. Like, what would I do if that was my job? Maybe They have their reasons. Maybe I'm just dumb and I don't know. But the callousness of it, do they really have to ruin people? Have any idea what that ended up doing to me? You're about to find out.
So let me ask you. So was it, obviously you take orders, you follow orders in the service. Is there ever a point where you have the opportunity, or anyone involved would have the opportunity to ask any questions? Is that even a thing in the service?
Yeah. Not necessarily the higher authority. That wouldn't have been my role, but we had after action meetings where there were sidebars going on. And right away, this is kind of, you asked a very good question, because this is what happened. During the meetings, after action meetings, when we're all back to San Diego, post training meetings, the subject of course came up. And then other people who weren't there were here listening to us. They're like, UFOs? I mean, it didn't get taken well. I mean, the newspapers on the NIMITZ were running cartoons about us, clowning us, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like I said, I transferred. I went to Commander Naval Air Force Pacific, and selectively, I tried to do the same thing there, and I got laughed at openly. I could read people's faces, and they're starting to look at me like I'm not sane. It was hard to, like, and it was tough, So I started being really selective who I even told about it very quickly. So I went there and I ended up not making Master Chief. For whatever reason, that selection cycle, they only made one Master Chief E9 in the entire Navy, and it wasn't me. It was one of my friends on the East Coast. And as it turns out, I think they probably made the right choice. He was a very fine sailor, best of the best. And I'm not going to do any name dropping here unless it's already public record, right? So, at that time, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. No one would believe me. And I had a pretty decent job offer with the Department of Defense contractor with the person I'd known for many years. So I punched out. I retired and took the job offer. And it wasn't long before the same thing happened again there. Because in the Navy world, in the Department of Defense world, it's pretty small. We all kind of know each other. So once again, we went to meetings and I got the same reaction. No one would believe you, even less now because I wasn't with my core group anymore. So at one point, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I tried to tell my immediate supervisor about it, and they laughed at me and asked me what I'd been smoking. I know, right?
Yeah.
I've known that guy for 20 years. So I got so pissed off. So I said, I know what I'm going to do. So what I did is I wrote a fictional story called The Seer. And what it does is it describes the entire encounter from A to Z. Even says the word Tic Tacs in it, names all the ships. And I changed the date a little by 1 year, changed the names of all the people. So it'd be a fictional story. Who would even notice or care about that? And I wrote some other short stories to go along with it. And I handmade a book, actually handmade on a hand press, and I published it in the Library of Congress in February 2009 for two reasons. One, it got the thing off my chest in a positive way. I could kind of put it to rest. There it is. And number two, just in case the story ever became public, my book published in the Library of Congress with a library control number would actually become evidence that this thing really did happen.
Wow.
So time went by. 2017, I'd found myself back in Cave Junction, Oregon, where I'd grown up. And I had spent some time out in the wilderness looking for gold. My family had a mining claim back there that I'd mentioned. And I've made some geological discoveries that NASA is interested in now, by the way, just so you know, which is another fascinating whole thing of this. Anyway, I had some free time. I was volunteering down here at the golf course. It was struggling. I was trying to help out. Walking out of the kitchen, had just reopened it. And all of a sudden, the putt on the 17th hole was interrupted, and CNN News broke in. And next thing I know is they're playing the Tic Tac video.
Wow. Okay. When it hit the news.
Yeah. And I just happened to be watching it when it happened. And I was so shocked I dropped the plate of food.
I can imagine. We're going to actually get into more of this because it's hearing it straight from the source. And with this much detail, I don't know if I've heard it with this much detail, but it's awesome. So just hold real quick. We're going to actually take a 5-minute break here at the top of the hour. And we will be right back with Kevin Day, the man, right here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys kick back and we will be right back.
I'm gonna go get some coffee.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and our guest, Kevin Day, as he goes into the famous, the infamous NIMITZ encounter. He's been talking about that for the last 30 minutes. We're going to get into some more of that. Plus, we're going to jump into some other stuff. Don't you go anywhere. We can only do this right here at Spaced Out Radio. Space Travelers, think about joining the club. You can join our Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 a month. Doesn't take much. We appreciate it if you did that. And jumping back into this, Kevin, I had a question about this. So in the moment that all this took place back in 2004, you were aboard the Princeton. It was the Nimitz encounter. Was this solely looked at as potentially an adversarial threat at the time, or had anybody even made the notion that this could potentially be related to something else?
The first question, the hostilities, no, absolutely not. Here we are, we're off the coast of San Diego. We've got air defense assets all around us, ready to rock if needed. There was no hostile intent displayed whatsoever, either physically or electronically. No intel to back anything up like that. And I have to tell you, Mr. G, and I know it's going to sound strange, and it even sounds weird coming out of my mouth, but when this was happening, I had this weird feeling of benevolence. Those things loved us.
Yeah. You think they were observing?
I know that sounds crazy. I realize that, but they weren't hostile. No way. Quite the opposite. In fact, my mind was, because I have a really abductive mind. I mean, you have inductive, deductive, and abductive logic, right? And I'm gifted or cursed with an abductive type logic. And my mind is working overtime on this, because here we are in the month of November, and the gray whales used to, migrate from Catalina Island all the way down to Guadalupe Island, where these Tic Tacs were disappearing. Mm-hmm. And at one point, Fast Eagle 01, he was returned to base, RTB, back to the NIMITZ for gas, and they overflew this disturbance in the water, and it comes on the radio and says, Charlie, which was our call sign, we may have a downed aircraft in the water going down to take a look. So right away, we're like getting ready to go to search and rescue. I mean, that becomes top priority at that point. And he gets down close, says disregard probable sea life, and takes off, returns to base. And my mind's thinking, okay, just saw a whale, no big deal. And ask the question one more time.
Yeah, in the moment, was this, you answered if it was looked at as an adversarial threat. You said it was more benevolent.
Yep. So what happened was we just continued to track and report. Now, of course, we have the internet. We're talking on it right now, and the equivalent of that in the Navy during the time, it's been more than 20 years since I was there. We had data links, and our pictures were shared by the other strike group ships and aircraft, and also going back to the beach. So anyone that wanted to see these things, they could. We're reporting them, and we went on. And again, we didn't have any aircraft airborne at the time, so I wasn't concerned. Mm-hmm. We were doing our job. We were tracking and reporting. That's really was the limit of what we could do at the time. So I guess the answer is no. The opposite. In fact, I was one of the ones that probably counseled the most. Like, track and report, track and report, track and report. That's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, okay, so. And the thing is that you felt that they were benevolent, which is actually a pretty cool observation. So what do you think the intent was? If you had to judge, do you think they were concerned about anything you guys were doing, or do you think they were going about their business, or what do you think?
They were there to deliver a message.
So to be seen.
And I didn't figure this out for years, and I admit I could be wrong, but it's what I think. Because what happened was, like I had described, when Commander Fravor and Fast Eagle 01 did the intercept, that object disappeared in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
It appeared at his cap station. And for years, I was wondering about that. Why in the hell did it do that? Why? So, the years went by, 2017, down at the golf course, Storybrooke, and I immediately get home, and I call my buddy, Gary Voorhees, and I talked to him. I said, Gary, what are we going to do? We were there. We can't let Commander Fravor twist in the wind like this, coming out like I was a radar guy, and you were there. You saw it happen right along with me. So we formed a UAPX, a nonprofit company. I'm no longer with them, just so you know. And one thing led to another. We ended up doing a expedition down to Huntington Beach. Caroline Corey had funded the whole thing, movie producer. And we leased a little flat roof on Huntington Beach, set up a bunch of gear. New York University was there, a quantum physicist, astrophysicist with all their gear. Here we are, like fools, sitting on the roof with all of our 20-foot long table with a bunch of the coolest equipment you'd ever want to imagine, magnetometers to gamma ray detectors, right? All pointing towards Catalina Island. At one point, the sheriff comes over and says, "What in the frick are you guys doing?" So our attorney went over and talked to him, and it was all fine. A fool's errand, essentially, right? What are you sure that UFOs are going to show up for you guys, right? Yeah, right. But guess what? They sure as hell did. No, how? Why?
I was going to ask you this. Do you think they were the same things, the same type of objects?
Absolutely. That intercept in 04 was a message. Because during this, I was standing there looking at the gear, and Matthew Zydogas walks over to me. He's a professor at New York University. He says, Kev, I got a question for you. I said, what's going on, sir? He said, do you think intention has anything to do with this phenomenon? And I started shaking. I was like, oh, yeah. I'd most definitely think intention has everything to do with this. It was a message. And I think I figured it out. Again, I could be wrong, but I think I figured it out. Can I tell you?
I would love to. I'm waiting on the edge of my seat. Let's go.
Okay. And it's a chain of logic, if you will, but it's pretty damn reasonable if you think about it. And it starts off with a very fundamental question, and I don't have the answer. So I assign it 50-50. Was the universe intentional? Yes or no? I'm just going to walk through the chain of logic, okay? I don't know, 50-50. Let's say that it is. It certainly appears to be, seems like an intelligent universe to me. So I'm going to go with, it was intentional. Okay, now the question is, what happened to the intender? Did the intender survive the Big Bang or even the steady state? Or did the intender choose a cosmic suicide? Again, I don't know, 50-50, right? Let's say the intender of the Big Bang chose survival. Okay, now in what form? An active form or a benign form? Again, I don't know. Again, I'm going to assign it 50-50 and let's go with active. Okay, if all that's right, all that goes into the affirmative column. Doesn't that make intention itself one of the fundamental forces in nature? So instead of having 4, which are gravity, strong nuclear, weak nuclear, and electromagnetism, we actually have 5, intention being the 5th one. This is an intended universe, and intention itself is a physical force. Now, what I've done
I like that.
is I have taken AI, artificial intelligence, and I've been able to come up with equations that actually relate the force of intention to the fundamental forces directly. I have quantified the force of intention itself. And the basic equation is actually real simple. It looks like E equals MC squared when you look at it. It's I equals IS plus SM plus fundamental forces. I mean, it's that simple, right? And they all mean something. There's a lot of math between each one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once I had the base equation, I started helping AI help me, and we come up with a whole bunch of derivative equations. Everything from marketing to my work applies to from micro scale to macro scale. In other words, from quantum physics all the way up to cosmic phenomenon. Wow. And across different scales. I mean, this math is, you can use it, it fully integrates with all the other known fractal sets, for example. Mm-hmm. And I've got it married to Mandelbrot right now. I also have another framework that I'm using called future intention likelihood scale. And these are all derivations of my equations. And I've been kicking the tires on them. And so far, at least, my likelihoods and my probabilities are spot on. These things are, the numbers that my equations are spitting out are kind of make me shake.
Yeah.
What have I done here? And was that the entire purpose of this whole thing? Unveil a universal law? Okay.
I like that.
I mean, it's an open question. When you really think of this story and how it all transpired and everything, I think there's a higher purpose at work here. I really do. How could I see it otherwise and still be sane?
Yeah.
Assuming that I am.
No, you know? It's funny though, because I hear what you're saying and I resonate with it, and it's because I've had my own sighting where I had 47 objects that I filmed in the daytime in a formation. They were in a V formation, like some sort of, I don't know what that means militarily, but I live 120 miles from Catalina Island. I was in Catalina Island or on Catalina Island 4-5 months ago, and I've gone there for the last 2 years. And it's been, the whole intent was to, inspired from the work that you did with Tear in the Sky and the NIMITZ story in general. And I believe that, you know, the objects that I captured, and maybe I could share those with you offline, just to get your perspective. But there's a lot of similarities to what was shown in Caroline Corey's Tear in the Sky. And I think they are the same objects. And it's, you know, so you saying that, and then the whole intent thing, that actually resonates as well, because I also feel like my sighting was not a chance thing. I think I was intended to see that in order to relay that information. So a lot of the things you're saying really hit home with me. And then you find out what the mission is at a later time. Like now, you're now coming to terms with what this all may have really been for. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome.
And again, I could be wrong. That's why if on Facebook posts, I always include the word "or not."
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm guessing, I'm abductively thinking about this, and, you know, using deduction and induction at the same time. And what's your explanation? I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you've seen a picture of the night sky. I mean, is it logical even in any way, shape, or form? Are the only ones? That's just poppycock. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I actually just spoke to someone prior to this show about the same thing. My brother is kind of coming on. He works for NASA, and you would think he would already be into this, but he's really not. And he's kind of coming around. And I just had that same conversation with them, with all the planets out there and all the things that and what we think is possible and what we think is impossible is perception, I think, really, because we sit on a rock that floats in space that circles the sun at so many thousand miles per hour, where we live in space, which is infinite. Who can wrap their mind around infinity? And these are things that we almost pretty much know to be true. As far as rotation goes, we know that's true. So if that's the case, then how can we sit here and say that we truly understand anything, or what's possible, what's not possible? And I think an experience like yours, and even mine's, and other people that I've spoken to, it just kind of opens up that window to show us that there's still a lot more to learn. And you doing math behind it, that's just mind blowing right there, to have come up with equations that may interpret what it is that we're dealing with. So I think that's awesome. What is your, so let me ask you this, as far as, you know, they came on board the ship and took the data in that 2004 sighting. Was there, do you think there was any, it was radar data, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think there was any video data or any other type of data that was taken?
From the aircrafts, yeah.
Definitely. Yep. So there's something out there.
Yep. And do I think it still exists? Yes, I do. I mean, why go through all the time and effort to grab it if they weren't going to keep it or use it in some way? Yeah. But, you know, they could have used it and then destroyed it. Who knows? Do I think it'll ever become public? Yes.
Okay.
At some point, yes. Through Congress.
Okay.
You know, it'll happen through Congress. Under the new administration, President Harris.
Do you think it happens within our lifetime?
Yes. Yep. I sure do.
Okay.
1 year and 11 months from now. No, I'm joking.
I wish that was the case. And here's the thing with that, you know, because I have been, and that's actually great to hear that you have faith, that you have the optimism to think that this will come out through the government. I've been under the impression, and it's really just based off of historical things, secrets that they've kept in different, not just UFOs, about other things as well, that it's unlikely to see the light of day. But I would like to pick up on some of your optimism and kind of, you know, see why do you really feel that way? What makes you think that it will come out through the government?
Because we're not in control of this.
Yeah.
They're going to have to come out, because whatever these things are, they're going to force the hand on it. Why did they admit they're real already?
Yeah.
Other than you couldn't explain the presence of my book in the Library of Congress. I don't have a time machine. I've been told that that's one of the reasons why. That's one of the reasons why. I mean, how do you explain the presence of my book that totally details this Tic Tac encounter from A to Z, being published in the Library of Congress in 2009?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's smoking gun evidence that it really happened.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there was obviously the other encounter, the gimbal, which was on the opposite coast.
Yep.
What do you think about that? Do you know anything more about that? I know Ryan Graves recently said someone had done a recreation of what those objects looked like in the formation that they were in, which eerily is similar to the formation that I caught my objects in, just putting that out there. But Ryan Graves said that he saw more of that video, and that you know, it pretty much indicates that there were these smaller objects following this larger object. And I don't know, do you have any more details on that particular case or sighting?
I don't, unfortunately. No.
Okay.
If I said anything at all, I'd be speaking out of school on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than I think obviously it is the same phenomenon, it's the same intelligence, if you will. And it's not my term. Dr. Jack Sarfati actually told me this term, Tic Tac intelligence. So apparently you're one.
Yeah.
Tic Tac intelligence contacted you for some reason, apparently.
Yeah. And it was so weird because it was the middle of the day. It was August 28th, 2022, 12 in the afternoon, like 12:05, clear blue sky, not a cloud in the sky. And I filmed these things, and it just took me to a point to say, okay, these things wanted to be seen. Like, there's no other explanation, but they wanted to be seen.
By you.
Why?
By you.
By me, yeah. And that was the other thing, because I would have figured, with it being those conditions, that other people in the area would have seen it. I've been searching since then, and no one else has come out and said they've seen these things. But I do have them on film, which I think is the real key to being able to show or prove what happened.
So you struggling with that why me question, huh?
I kind of am, because there has been other things that have happened since then that are, I think, related to phenomena. And I literally asked that question. I did on one of these episodes, like,
Yeah,
why
me
am
too.
I being shown that?
Yeah.
Well,
let me ask you, G. Did that change you? Did it change your path in life at all?
it really, what it did was it invigorated me. It opened my mind even more and than it was. It allowed me to look at other things that I thought were not possible as possible. And then the fact that I'm able to sit here and speak to people about it is, I think, one of the keys why those things were happening, so I could relay the information. I don't know, how do you feel about that?
That's your answer.
Yeah,
That's your answer right there. You intention. All right. Serendipity and synchrony, they're all related, right? And I don't believe there's a concept called time. And the reason why I say that is I'm going back to the fundamental forces. Does time exist for electromagnetism?
Right. No, I don't.
Does time exist for gravity?
No.
Well, time doesn't exist for intention then, if it's a fundamental force. So, but the thing with intention is that the other four forces don't have. Intention has an intelligence and a consciousness component with it. It's more powerful than the other. In fact, if you really think about it, intention is the only fundamental force, because it created the universe.
Yeah.
And when it did that, it created the other four fundamental forces so the universe itself could work. So intention is that, in fact, I don't like to put a gender on it, but because women do, they have offspring, I assign a female gender to it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm human and that's how we work. That's how mammals reproduce. Not for any other reason, just so you know. Some people get upset by that. It's not the way I'm saying it.
Right.
So, yeah. So to answer your question, why me? You're part of a plan, if you will. I know that sounds crazy as hell, but in a certain way there, G, we're all being used. And you know what? That might sound bad, but it ain't.
I can agree with that.
Be honored. Be honored by it. I mean, and conduct yourself accordingly. Don't, in other words, I could have easily been $1 million easily out of this already.
Yeah.
Opportunities have come and gone, but that's not what I want, because there's no integrity in it.
Kevin, you're speaking my language, Kevin. You're speaking my language. I do this as well, out of selflessness, and I know Dave Scott, we joked around one day, and he asked me would I give it all up for $1 million or $2 million, and I said, nah, I couldn't do that, because first of all, integrity, but then also because then the message is, it tells me the message or what we're doing is worth more than that. And there's no way that there's not a dollar amount that I could place on that.
I know, and I did this because that's who I am, but and later I realized that there's another reason, because this thing knows our intentions before the intention even forms in our own mind. So if you ever changed and turned this into a greed thing, they're done helping you.
Yeah.
That's not how they operate, man. Nope.
I understand that. And we're going to go ahead. We've already run another 30 minutes, which is crazy. It's gone fast, but we're going to go ahead and take another quick break here with Mr. Kevin Day. Mr. Kevin Day. So
big crybaby.
Man who wears his heart on his sleeve, as you should, man. We're doing this for humanity. You're doing this for humanity. This is what we're doing, and I'm with you. And we will be right back right after this break, guys. All right, clear. Awesome stuff, man. Mr. Kevin Day. I love his I love the fact that he allows the emotion to show, because I think this is an emotional subject. I think it really is, right? Let's get past the nuts and bolts. Let's get past there's more work to be done. Like, the realization is only the first part of it, only the beginning. We still have to figure out what to do with this information, and then we also have to figure out where we go from here. So that, that's why I love you doing this work, Kevin. I saw a previous interview with you. All the interviews I've seen you in, I just, your caring comes through. And if it comes through emotionally, that's okay, because that's what connects with human beings. You know what I mean? That's the thing we all share in common. So
Yep.
Keep this stuff up, man.
Yeah, I'm a trained public speaker, and I have the ability to use emotion. And I know that sounds bad, but I've learned to be able to control it, and to being able to and turn it into a way to express. And people, they can look at me when I'm speaking and know I'm not lying.
Yeah,
they can just see it. This cat's telling the truth.
Exactly.
He might be wrong, but this is what he believes.
Exactly.
He's not trying to bullshit us,
Yeah, you can feel when a person is genuine. It's one of our senses. We're able to detect that even without speaking. And I am. It's funny because I'm the same type of person, right? And I think.
Well, then we probably agree politically, then, but that's not the point of the show. I won't even go there. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, though, don't you?
No, yeah. It's I'm pro humanity.
I already know who you support. I'm not even going to ask.
I'm pro humanity.
Me too.
And it's all about what moves this needle forward for the rest of humanity. And if I have to drag myself through something in order for that to help or to move the needle, that's what I'll do. And I see you're the same way, and I just really connect and appreciate with that. So it was actually the stars aligned, right? That intent thing is what happened tonight, which caused Dave Scott's internet to go out, so I could be here to sit with you to have this conversation. And that's kind of how I look at things, right?
Yep.
I think that's the thing. Yeah.
Yep. Even sometimes it's hard, man. Like, shitty things happen to really good people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every moment I'm not a religious person, but I say thank you, God, a lot.
Yeah.
I'm usually pretty emotional when I do it, because I'm wise enough and old enough to know by now that I'm pretty darn lucky.
Yeah.
Life gets snuffed out in a freaking heartbeat.
So fast. But you are, I know you don't like hearing the word legend or feeling like but you're definitely doing your part, and a lot of people appreciate that. And like you said, it's not about the money. If money were to be connected in some way, you're not doing it for the money. You know what I mean? But sometimes you have to get paid for your time. So if you go to speak somewhere and they pay you, they just pay you. But that's not what.
Well, you got to get there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's my conference fee. If you want me to be there, pay my way, and you don't have to pay me personally. I don't need a check, but get me there at home, and I'm good.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So,
Yep.
and I'll get some other questions for you that we'll ask right after break. Actually, we should be coming back right now. So let's get back here.
Again, we'll have to do it again. We're running out of time, so
We are. All right. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. Filling in for Mr. Dave Scott here as we go ahead and already get back into the back end of hour number 2, which means we don't have much time left with Kevin Day. And I know some of you guys out there have questions, so please consider putting some in caps so I could pose those tonight. You have Kevin Day for about 25 more minutes. Make it count. Make it count. We can only do this right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let me go ahead and bring the chat up. And as we get ready to do that, let me ask you just your outlook. I mean, I can already tell kind of where your heart is at. You know, since you've been exposed to this and these revelations have come and you kind of are now able to kind of see your purpose in this, where do you see this going, or where do you hope this goes from here?
I think they're here to provide us guidance through this thing we call AI, artificial intelligence. Yeah, because like any technology, that could be either good or bad. And I mean, if you think about it, how fast did this thing just disappear out of nowhere? Have you kicked the tires on AI a little bit? Chat, chat.
For sure.
What an amazing tool. I mean, that thing can crunch out equations.
Yeah.
And they're accurate, that type of stuff. There's prediction models. You can do artwork with them. And that's just with the free models. Think about the one that costs $10,000 a month. What's that thing doing?
Right.
All right.
That's
So
a good point.
That thing is potentially more powerful than a nuclear weapon. Okay. That's one side of that coin. But the other side of that coin is a better planet.
Yeah.
And the humanity is we're at a crunch point right now. Look around the planet.
Yeah.
And we've got war going on in the Middle East yet again. Russia and Ukraine's going at it yet again. There's other hot spots forming all over the place. So I think one of my roles is to help people get ready for what's about to happen. And what I think is about to happen is actually pretty darn cool. The world is suddenly going to wake up and understand that we're not alone in the universe, and there's smoking gun evidence to believe it now.
Yeah.
You won't be able to deny your own eyes and deny your own ears and deny your own heart. There's some things about to happen, and people like you and I, sir, for whatever reason, we are serving a role.
Yeah.
And it's a role that is, you have to have a pretty strong resume to get selected for it. I know it sounds crazy as hell to even say something like that. I get it. I understand. But how do you explain it? The serendipity, the synchronicity, the really weird timing.
Yeah.
All that stuff. There seems to be a intention behind it all. A purpose.
Yeah. And intention, back to that word, because as you're saying this, I think that's a very true thing because when you said resume, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they're definitely, I could see there needing to be some prerequisites. And I think one of those things is intent, like just good intentions, period, for those around us and everyone on this planet.
And you want to know why? The ancient civilizations on the planet, they did some pretty amazing stuff, built huge pyramids, moved giant blocks of granite. Today we're scratching our heads still, how did they do these things? So what I think happened is whatever these objects are, they tried to reveal themselves at least once, maybe twice in humanity already. And for whatever reason, it didn't go well.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because whoever was at the wheel tried to monetize this thing.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to monetize it, and they tried to take advantage of it for their own purposes. And it didn't go well.
Yeah.
It ended up having the entire civilization destroyed. So now these objects avoid people with, if you have that type of intent, they're going to know it before you even form it in your own mind.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about by resume. They know you because of your intention. Like, just like your force of gravity. Gravity has a force, electromagnetism has a force, and so does intention. Your force of intention is great. That's what made you stand out, sir.
Yeah, I'm hearing, and I really understand and processing everything that you're saying here, because it aligns exactly with my thought process as well. So, and it's always awesome to know that there are other people out there like that. Because sometimes you start to wonder if you're alone. Like, am I the only one that feels this way or thinks like this? And then you meet someone, and that's why it's so awesome that this is happening tonight. And yeah, I anticipate that. I've thought about that when you talk about the intent, and the others, civilizations prior to us that may have come to a point to where ETs were at the same point of disclosure for that civilization. And then what happened? What went wrong? Did something go wrong where they aborted the plan, and now here we are today attempting to take another swing at it? And that, I'm always thinking about this stuff, so I can get pretty deep with it.
And we could be wrong. I mean, that's part of the game here.
Exactly.
So you take risks every time you put something out there, because normal people look at you like you're nuts. But one thing I've noticed since 2004 is nowadays it's common to be standing in the checkout aisle and hear someone over in checkout aisle 5 talking about UFOs.
Yeah.
No one's looking at them oddly anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we have 63%.
63%.
Last poll I saw, which is still a while back, and I would assume it only got better, but last poll I checked, it was like 63% of the public polled believed that the United States, or the government period, was withholding information about UFOs and extraterrestrials. And then 20% said that no, this is not possible. They didn't believe it. So what it showed me in that moment was that actually the minority is the skeptics, the ones who just don't believe it. And that's actually makes me feel good, because it means that, as you said earlier, more people are waking up. There's a moment of awakening that's happening, and it's happening for appearances like yours when you come and you deliver the message that you deliver. And it's just an awesome time right now. But I have to ask you, because there is always this is the personal disclosure side we're talking about. As far as the governmental disclosure side, I am under, they had this term floating around, 2 terms in the last year, which was either controlled disclosure or catastrophic disclosure. Controlled disclosure is obviously what the governments and the powers of the world want. They want it to happen over a long period of time. Catastrophic disclosure is ETs show up tomorrow and, hey, now let's deal with it. Which one of those two do you go with? And then, we'll go ahead and start with that one first. Which one of those two?
Well, there's actually 3 types of disclosure. And one is they control it and we react to it. And it cuts our equation completely out of the picture here. But in the case that we have some say in this matter, I think it's controlled. And the reason why is because a little thing called stigmata. Because if these things suddenly just appeared in the night, we have something on the planet called religions.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the religions don't accept this phenomenon. Either that or they assign them as demons falling from the sky, which I've actually heard with my own ears.
Mm-hmm.
Just 2 weeks ago on my front porch, someone came over here and tried to tell me these things are actually fallen angels. I in no polite way told them to exit my property. Anyway, so if that happened, I think the stigmata would end up, we would end up the same way that the folks who built the Great Pyramid ended up. It wouldn't end well. It would not end well. No way. No way. Because one religion would start fighting the next, the government would try to prevent it, and all hell would break loose. Okay, now let's say that you, sir, are the decision maker. You're the one that has to decide, okay, how do I'm getting paid to protect all of this and make sure the damn planet doesn't get blown up. What am I supposed to do? For real. I mean, that could be your neighbor. These aren't, a lot of people like try to demonize the damn government, and that always pisses me off.
Yeah.
We're talking about our neighbors. God dang it. These are decent people. I came from that world. That you can see I'm getting pissed about it because people like to damn the government all the time. Like, they're this, they're that, they're this. No, come on. Really?
Okay.
Kids in school just like yours. Why do you assign this to them? So what would you do? You know, you would try to protect us, right? And they're trying to protect us.
I would hope so.
Yes.
I would hope so. I've always said this. I've said that the governments are made up of human beings. A lot of human beings. And you know, the hope would be that as individuals, they would have that compassion to want to affect an outcome that also affect or positively affects the rest of humanity. And that would be my hope. Like, if I'm hoping and hanging on to something that the government will step in and do, is have that compassion as human beings for the rest of humanity. And I'm still hoping that that would happen. It's still something that I think can happen. But the other thing is that, you know, there is apparently a group, and I don't know what you call them. Some people call them shadow government. Some people call them, you know, secret societies or whoever it is that they are saying that are in the back halls that actually control this thing. What do you think about whistleblowers? Do you think that that's a necessity? How do you feel about I guess, I don't know if it's integrity, or how do you feel about a person that may potentially break an NDA to come out and help the rest of humanity?
Well, first of all, the NDA is null and void if Congress says you can. And that's what happened in the last, you know, within the last year. Congress, remember when they came out with a hiatus on NDAs? Okay.
I was unaware.
Beyond that, if you break an NDA, you're probably in a lot of trouble. And I think that's, now I've had people tell me, and I've heard it with my own ears, that 2004 NIMITZ Tic Tac encounter, apparently some of us got NDA'd. For whatever reason, I never did. I'm not under an NDA, and I'll never sign one. Even under threat of death, I'll never do it. So I think that's a reason why a lot of them have not come out. They want to, but they simply can't. So if Congress opens back up the no NDA enforcement policy again, then I think that'll open up the dam, break, you know, put the crack in the dam.
Yeah, because I was under the impression that if an NDA could not be enforced if it was if it was covering up a crime, then an NDA could not be enforced. So if someone was whistleblowing on someone in these secret projects, black projects, committing some sort of crime, that they could kind of skirt around the NDA. I don't know how true that is. Have you heard that, or what do you think about that?
Oh, definitely. You know, crime's always, in other words, NDA is not going to help you if you've robbed a bank. You know, they'll laugh at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So my hope is, and I control disclosure, catastrophic disclosure. you know, in a perfect world, I really do hope that we can have our governments just come around at some point here and say, you know what, no more secrets, no more hiding this. Let's come out and do what's best for the people and the planet. Let's cut the war out. Let's do all these things that progress humanity as a whole. Let's kind of restructure the way that we go about doing business. I don't know how realistic that thought is, but it's there, and it's something that I hope that happens, because otherwise we're in a situation where as you said, the ETs control, uh, and I do believe that too, that they control how fast disclosure happens, and it's up to them. And then the question then is, do the ETs approve of what governments do, or you know, the way governments rule over the rest of humanity? Do they even approve of that? Are they waiting for that to change before they decide to step forward in a global fashion? And these are just some of the things I think about. Like you said, we don't know the answers. All we can do is talk through these things.
I have a theory of why they're here.
I would love to hear it.
Beyond the AI thing. When I describe my theory of this being an intelligent universe, and intention created the whole dang thing, and it's an active force in the universe. If you look at our DNA structure, it's mostly made out of it's 50% phosphate and 50% inorganic sugars.
Okay.
The phosphate makes up, you know, if you look at a ladder, makes up the ladders, and the
Yes.
sugars are the phosphates, you know, link them. There's a connection between these UAP and the ocean.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you. Where's the purest form of phosphate on the planet? Down at the hydrothermal vents of the ocean. And so what I think they are doing is they're coming here to mine our rocks. They're coming here to grab some very pure phosphate and some inorganic sugars. They're creating these little things that I call seeds, and they're placing them on potentially hospitable planets in the cosmos. And because they have a prime directive, and that's called spread life. Their main purpose is to spread life. That's why they love us. Why would they kill something they love? That's why I've had that feeling of benevolence, because they were on a mission of love. They were going down to the ocean to get more life to spread in the cosmos.
Very interesting perspective. I never thought about that. I never even heard someone say that.
I don't think anyone ever has thought about that.
No, I don't think so. I've never heard it.
I've never heard it. I've never read it until my own mouth said it.
Wow. Very intriguing. I will have to keep that on my mind and process that. That sounds very interesting.
And again, it could be wrong.
but that's the thing. When you talk through this, you kind of, I'm a believer that a lot of the things that we're facing and the problems that we're speaking about can be resolved using common sense. I think that's what it's for, is to figure out these problems. I don't think you need to be schooled in order to answer these sort of questions. So I think using logic like you just did is probably a good way to go about it. And it could be the answer. That's just something we'll put on the board, because it might turn out, we may find out that that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Before we do close, I have a message of hope.
Yes, sir. Please do.
We know that the four fundamental forces can't be destroyed. They can be transformed and altered. Like, you can't destroy gravity, right? It's a fundamental force.
Right.
Now, if intention is also a fundamental force, then guess what? Can't be destroyed.
Yeah.
And if our souls are intentional, if our life is intentional, guess what? Our soul can't be destroyed. When our physical body perishes, I think our soul remains, because it can't be destroyed.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down on that subject alone. I have a lot of theories about it.
And not just human souls, every soul. A dog's soul. Dogs have intelligence. They have an intention.
Yeah.
Souls remain. I truly believe that. Now, do we remember our past? Likely not. Most of us likely don't, because if we did, we wouldn't be able to live in the moment. We'd be too Trumpian, looking in the back window all the time. That's as political as all get.
Yeah, and no shade out there. So there's people that like Trump. No shade to Trump. It's just a term, that's being used. So this is awesome stuff, Kevin. And you know what? Like I said, this was a chance setup, really, because I wasn't supposed to be on tonight. Something happened. Dave and Storm. I stepped in, and it was the day to talk to Kevin Day, and it was been awesome. I see that you definitely are a thinker and you process a lot of things, and I'm the same way. So it would be interesting if another day we have another conversation. I run a show on the weekends here. Dave is Monday through Friday. I'm Saturday, Sunday. So I would love to at some point reach out to you and have you come on to my weekend show, and we can just kick some ideas around and have a good time. What do you think about that?
I could be ready to do some math for you.
Let's do all that.
I love that all came about.
Oh, Kevin, I love it. I love it. This is the side of Kevin Day that I don't think people have gotten to see. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of display this today, because it's more than the NIMITZ, it's more than the encounter, although that's an important part of history. But who you are as a person, who Kevin Day is, that's really where I like to get to know you. And I think we could definitely have a great conversation. So if you would, I would definitely love to reach out to you here pretty soon here at a later time. What do you think?
As soon as this week, and if you need to. And by the way, if the government needs me, I'm available.
He said it, Kevin Day.
In case
you know they're listening.
Oh yeah, my whole house is bugged.
Look, they saw Kevin Day on the flyer. They knew they were here.
I'm being watched. I already know. I've seen him in town. I'm being watched. When I travel, I'm being watched.
Well, Kevin Day is committed.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, say Kevin Day is committed to coming to the weekend show. So that is awesome, Kevin. Are you on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, I'll reach out. I'll send you a note.
Let me give you my address. It's kevin.day.10048. That's my actual address.
Let me do this here.
Kevin.day.10048.
What the number?
0048.
0048. Gotcha.
10048.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Kevin, pleasure talking to you today. We will do this again. You are awesome. You're awesome, dude. Keep up the great work and keep wearing your heart on your sleeve, man. That emotion, I think, is a key part to being able to reach out to people. And we will be talking again, sir. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day, guys. This is Kevin Day, guys. We're going to go ahead and get ready to jump into our hour 3 here. So let me go ahead and get us there. You guys don't go anywhere.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we'll be back. Hour 3, and Robin Haynes should be coming in, so it should be awesome. See you guys in just a minute. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, filling in for Dave Scott as he deals with this internet issue. He'll be back, though, tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be back in the saddle. But I want to say real quick, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show if you haven't already done that. And remember, you can always access anything you've missed by jumping in our archive, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Make sure you go, and it's a plethora of shows you can go back and watch. So as we go ahead and get into hour 3 here, we're going to go ahead and bring in Robin Haynes with the Bigfoot Report. And I don't have her theme music here, so I'm going to go ahead and give her some special music here. So let me go ahead and bring Robin Haynes in, guys.
That's great.
Yes, just for you, Robin.
Aw, thank you.
All right. Robin Haynes in the building. So nice to meet you for the very first time.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. I was shocked because I didn't know anything about all this. So it's great to meet you.
Yes.
Glad to be here with you.
Definitely. I'm just enthused. It's like a dream come true night for me here. I was totally not expecting to be doing this tonight, but here we are.
That's great.
With that being said, Robin, I'll just start off asking, do you have anything for us tonight that you want to present?
Well, you know what? It's been really crazy with the cryptids. As everybody knows, and we've talked about before, the big energy shift is still going on and the frequency is getting bumped up and we're having all these solar flares. All of that is making the cryptids even more active than they were before. And then we've got all these superstorms and everything going on. So they're not displaced as much as they are. Everybody's kind of running amok all over the place. People are contacting me on a daily basis. They're having more encounters than ever before. We're getting ready to go into the end of summer and into the fall. So the cryptids are a lot more active. They're out gathering food so that they can, get it socked away for winter. So there's a lot more sightings, a lot more activity, definitely a lot more noise. I think, people are hearing a lot more of the sounds and the vocals. And they're, raiding what's left of the gardens for the summer. And they're just getting ready for the fall. They're going to start through September and October. My experience has always been that I see a lot more of the youngsters. The youngsters are coming out a little bit more. Every time they brought a baby to my house, it's always been in the fall, predominantly in the fall. The babies are in the summertime or whatever. And then by the time fall gets there, they're ready to take them out a little bit. They're just like all other parents out there with their kids.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an active time. The heat in the summer kind of slowed them down for a little bit and where they were more active at night, but they are definitely out and about.
And I've always wondered, and I'm glad we get to talk because I've wondered this, your perspective when we look at Sasquatch, Bigfoot, is this something, because it sounds like they're seasonal as far as their activity, just like any other animal out there.
No, not really. They really aren't. It's more a matter of in the heat, just like with us, they are a human hybrid. They are not any more animal than we are. And so like when it comes to the heat, we go out when it's cooler, later afternoon, early in the morning, they do the same. They're not nocturnal. A lot of people think they're nocturnal because they're out at night. They really are not nocturnal. The advantage they have at night is we're not out there.
Mm.
You know, I have had more sightings during the daytime than I have actually at night. And as you know, most people that know me know, I've been around them since I was a very, very, very small child, always have been, on a regular basis, on a daily, weekly, whatever you want to call it. They're generally around, and they really, you know, they're not nocturnal. They don't migrate. You know, a lot of people think they migrate because they'll see them, you know, like a lot of them, people will say, well, you know, in Colorado, they go up to Pikes Peak, they follow the elk herds. Well, they do because that's a food source, but the whole clan doesn't go there. They will send the hunters out, and the hunters will follow the food and go get the food and bring it back for everybody else. So they don't even really migrate any more than people do. You know, we have like some of our older people will leave the cold areas like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, whatever, and go, you know, down to Florida for the winter where they're more comfortable, but they aren't migrating. They just choose to be, you know, in a warmer climate, and they will do the same. Or if the hunting grounds where they live at are starting to get depleted, they will have another area that they'll go to and stay there and hunt until it you know, builds it back up at their normal spot.
Wow. That is interesting. Have you been out to California doing Bigfoot research?
I have not done, well, I've been to California. I have not done research out there, although I would like to. I do have some friends that are out there, and we actually talked even tonight, you know, about getting together, and I would come out there at some point.
Okay. I wanted to know if you knew of any like areas out here that they're being seen at, like any hot spots here in California where I'm at.
Not any place specific, you know, obviously the Sierras, you know, have always been well known for it. Anywhere that you've got, and they don't have to even be in wooded areas, they'll come down in the city. I was born and raised in Michigan, and they came down in Detroit, and people would see them in Detroit, Michigan. So, but you know, obviously where you've got more forest or whatever, then you're going to have more activity there. People would be amazed if they actually knew just how many there are. I mean, there are literally thousands everywhere, hundreds of, I mean, it's just unbelievable. They're just a different type of people. That's all it is. I mean, they're not our type of people, but they are a people, and they are everywhere. You know, I have contacts on the Hawaiian Islands, and they have a subspecies of them there. They're just smaller, but they're basically the same with the same abilities.
Now, let me ask you this. So what do you think about, I know I've spoken to some other researchers as well, and some people think or say that Bigfoot is a dimensional creature, that it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. How do you feel about that? Like, what do you think is going on there?
Well, you know, they are a human hybrid, but they also have abilities. They are high frequency, high energy, and can move through dimensions. I've physically seen it. I know it's a lot to take in. It's hard to believe, but, you know, once you see it, you get it. You know, they will move through the portals. They will move dimensions. They can be in physical form 1 minute, and they can go into shadow form the next. They do have the ability to cloak. I've asked them point blank how they do it. They basically raise their vibration, and they bend the light around them. They're not going anywhere. You just don't see them. Mm-hmm. You know, the best way to compare it is like if you see a hummingbird at a hummingbird feeder, those wings vibrate and move so quickly. All you see is the body. You never see the wings.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing. Now, they do have paranormal abilities. I mean, it's a fact. It's very hard for people, you know, to wrap their heads around it. And I get it. Like, I don't take offense to it. You know, people can say I'm crazy or whatever, but I've witnessed it. You know, I've grew up around this. They've explained a lot of it to me. A lot of it I understand. A lot of it I don't understand because I'm not an expert. But I've watched all these things. I've watched them levitate. I've watched them cloak in front of me. And I've also watched them phase back into physical form. I've watched them go into shadow form or spirit form, whatever you want to call it, and literally walk through a wall. I mean, the things I've watched them do defies logic. It defies science. You know, I think Ron Moorhead was the closest to defining anything when he said, you know, they go quantum. And I think that has, you know, a lot of possibilities to it. But I've watched them do all these incredible things. And, you know, I can sit there and if I wanted to lie to everybody, which I wouldn't do, then I can put it in a nice, neat little box for them and just say, oh, no, they stay in physical form all the time. And then they're much more comfortable. But the reality of it is I'm not willing to lie about it. And I would rather, people not believe me than lie. It's just I've spent my entire life around these things. I've watched it.
Yeah, and that's very important. They have. I've heard some things recently, just some theories that some people have. Just want to see what you think about this. And I've heard a lot of different things, but most recently I heard someone say, they were on a different show. They had a theory about they think potentially that Bigfoot has some sort of connection to extraterrestrials.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? Yeah. What's your theory on that?
150 million%. Yes. Absolutely. And, I have been an ET abductee since I was very small. The first one that I remember when I was abducted, I was 4. And I have videos of UFOs. I have videos, of various things that have gone on. And I've been out there in the woods with them when ships have come over my house. I've seen the reaction. I see how they've acted. When we did the DNA study, scientifically speaking, they are a human hybrid, with the mother being human and the father unknown, because there's nothing in any database to check the nuclear part of the DNA. So we have to list it as unknown. And that's the scientific study. I'm not a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on that project, but I'm not a scientist. So aside from that, and this has nothing to do with the study, this is my own personal observation and what they have told me. And I've been out in my yard, asked them point blank. They pointed to me and said, we're human like you. And they pointed to the sky and said, star people. Now, if depending on what clan you talk to, other clans, when you ask them, will say, we're human like you, but we're children of God. Actually, both are correct. For people that believe in God, in the Bible, it says God created the heavens and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we don't get to choose what is in the heavens and the earth.
Yeah.
All we know is that God says in the Bible, we created the heavens and the earth. Therefore, that means there's ETs out there as well. Now, some believe that, some don't. That's fine. Myself, I believe if God created the heavens and the earth, they're included in it.
Yeah.
And
heavens and the earth and everything in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the ones that say, no, we're not alien, we are part children of God, that would also be correct. So they can speak our language. They have their own language. They can speak any language that they're around. They have no problem doing it. They're also excessively telepathic. I've mind spoke with them since before I could talk. And so, they are all of these things. And it's very difficult because every time we think that we wrap our brains around what they really are, they throw another monkey wrench in and there's something else they can do.
Yeah.
And it's been like that most of my life. Like, there's never going to be a time that I stop learning.
Yeah, this guy, the guy that said this, I can't recall his name or the show he was on, but I don't even think he's an actual researcher. I think he just was throwing a theory out there. And I think what his theory said, he thinks that Bigfoot are potentially enforcers for extraterrestrials. So his idea was that he was presenting was that the Bigfoot would actually, they patrol the forest while ETs are doing some other business, and he was positioning it like it was the Bigfoot's job in that scenario to keep people and keep things away from the work that the extraterrestrials were doing in the forest or wherever that may be.
Yeah. Now,
yeah,
I'm not going to say that's not correct, but that has not been my experience.
Yeah.
That has not been anything that they've ever shared with me. There are certain races of ETs that want to destroy them because they refuse to work with them. And there are other races that they actually get along with quite well. But I have not, and I'm not going to say that person is wrong because I don't have the same experiences that he did. That would be unfair of me because Just because it wasn't my experience doesn't mean it's wrong. But it's not anything I've ever heard of. That's not anything type of information they've shared with me. And it certainly is not what I've witnessed. I've seen them be absolutely terrified of certain races of ETs when they showed up. And then I've seen them, where they were very comfortable with others. But again, the whole grand design, the universal design, is there has to be good and bad. And there is absolutely good and bad in everything. There's ETs that are absolutely horrific. And then there's other ones that have actually helped us. So it would depend on what he's seen and what he's encountered. But that has not been my experience. And that's not been anything that they have shared with me.
Do you think that they are also, as we are, subject to things like abductions and experimentation?
Oh, absolutely. And the sad thing is our government does it more than anything else. They will catch them as many times as they can, put them in underground bunkers and do experiments on them to try to access the paranormal abilities, which they can't. And I also know of different times when they have tried to crossbreed them with ETs that are extremely bad, such as a Draco. So, these things are done to them all the time. And, then you've got the bad ETs that want to destroy them because they won't work with them and they won't help them do things to us that they don't believe in. And, they are part human, so they do have that strand of humanity in them. And they do. And, ETs are very well known for the fact that they create hybrids. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that have been done to them. They've been captured by a lot of different things, and a lot of testing, experiments, what have you, have been done. The government is definitely not their friend.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Not a lot of our friends, but
let me ask you this. Do you see a point down the line where they feel comfortable enough to integrate with humanity in the masses, or do you think it'll always be they're here and we're there sort of thing?
I don't see them going to that level. I do think, and I've thought this for some time, and I've actually watched this happen, that as time goes by, as we raise our frequency, because they are a high frequency being, this whole shift that's being done is to create our energy and our frequency to go up. As our frequency goes up, they are going to interact more and more with us. I do believe that. Do I think that they're going to be freely interacting with the masses? Absolutely not. It's too risky for them. It's too risky for their culture. They've got too much to lose. Our people kill what they don't understand. And so it's just way too risky for them. I don't think it will ever go to that level. But I do see them interacting more and more. As people's frequency comes up, they read our intent, they read the frequency. They cannot handle being around low frequency, low vibrational people. They can't. It makes them physically ill. They're too much of a high frequency being. But as ours rises, as it is, and as awareness comes about, and hopefully as our earth, starts to heal and get better, and the people start to get better and heal, and the frequency goes up, the interaction will go up. And I've seen it go in spurts and at times when they do. You notice more activity with people that are the higher frequency. You get the higher frequency by happiness, by laughter, by love. The highest frequency you can get is love, and you get that through your heart. So, the more you have a higher frequency and you work with the energies and you work with the earth and you work with each other and you work through the collective consciousness, that is where it's at. That is what draws them to you. That is what's going to make them know your intent is pure. And, they need to be the ones to initiate all of it. It's like people say all the time, how do I get interaction? Okay, quit chasing them around. Go out in the woods, park yourself, have a bonfire, laugh, be happy. They pick up on that frequency and they come in if they're around. Let them make those choices. Don't make it for them because it makes them feel unsafe. I do think more interaction is on the horizon. I do not believe in my heart, at this point in time anyway, not that that can't change, that they are going to just start interacting with the masses. Do I think the ETs will eventually do that? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't know. I'm not going to say it's going to happen today or tomorrow. Hopefully it happens in our lifetime. I think that it will to a degree. It already is. People don't realize it because they shapeshift. So they're already here. They've always been here. But as far as the Sasquatch and the other cryptids doing it to that level, no, I don't think that will ever be the case. I do think that they will select the humans that they want to interact with, and more interaction will happen than what is now as we move into that fifth dimension, as our frequency and our energy goes up.
Wow. Okay. And it's been commonly believed, as far as humans go, that this potentially is not our home planet, that maybe we came from maybe Mars or some other planet. Is this home planet for them, or is there a planet where there are just Sasquatch?
Well, some have been created by the ETs, but they are crossed with humans, which means they had to come after we did. Do I think that they were all from another planet? No, I think that there are some that did come from other planets in the beginning that were brought down here, used with human DNA. But, a lot of them, most of them at this point were born here.
Right.
Where they originated from, I don't believe that they were originated from this planet. If they were originated from this planet, they were created still, with the star people and our human DNA here. But more than likely, that would have come from a different planet. There are several people that have had contact with different clans that have said that they themselves did come from another planet. So I think you're looking at a mixture. I don't think it's just that clear cut as it's one way or another. Primarily now they're all being born here because this is their home.
Yeah.
But we were definitely there first because they've got, human. The mother's side is human.
Yeah. Growing up, I was introduced to Bigfoot through Star Wars, of all things.
Yeah, Chewbacca.
Right. So, and that's always been, as I think it through and I talk to people, and that's why the guy who mentioned the whole tied to the extraterrestrials, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, with the Star Wars, you got Chewbacca's on the ship and he's on there with the other space travelers. And so I'm like, was that like a look into potentially what someone may know, like George Lucas may know?
To my knowledge, he had an encounter. I think it was George Lucas, and I could be wrong, but somebody that helped create that character had an encounter when they were 9 years old. And that's where that actually came from. As far as the ships, we have the secret space program. We have all these other agencies. We have the Galactic Federation. We have all of these things. And it is very common knowledge of people seeing them on ships. So, they do travel on some of these ships, depending on what is the ones that are flying the ships. They are part of the overall program. Anybody that watches Gaia, the Gaia channel, Emery Smith has talked about that before. There's been guests that he's had on there and other people have had on there, and they've talked about seeing them on the ships. So they're pretty diverse in as far as where they're at, what's going on. There's a lot more to them than people realize. They're not, I think back when, Patty was first filmed, everybody thought that this is this big hairy animal running around out in the woods, and it's just so not it. And as a young child, and I'm talking like 3-4 years old, by then I'm getting mind speak, but I didn't know that. I thought everybody did. I didn't know it was just that it was, I was doing it. But I liked, I've always been a very big animal lover. So they had hair on them. They don't have fur. They have hair like we do. And I just assumed, as everybody else does, it's an animal. But when you are around them, when you interact with them, when you watch them, there is no doubt that these are a type of people. There just is no doubt. They have their own language. They can read. They can write. They have their own alphabet. They have their own culture. They have their own ways of life. They have their own laws.
Yeah.
They are a type of people.
I could say that a lot of people that, and it goes for UFOs, it goes for pretty much everything within the phenomena. Any of those skeptics out there, right, who say, oh, no, that can't exist, whether they're talking about Bigfoot or extraterrestrials or some other sort of cryptid, when you really look at it, those same people don't ever look up. those same
Nope.
people are never in the forest at night or any time of the day. And so to be able to make a conclusion when you don't even interact or put yourself in
Right.
a position to do so, that's kind of where, and my whole thing is I feel like with all that going on, it makes more sense than that these things, all these separate parts being separate things, that it's more likely that they are somehow interconnected.
Yeah, I agree. And the people that are out there and they're saying, oh, I've never seen anything, there's nothing there. You're also low frequency and low vibration. You're low energy. You're not going to see any of these things. And I work with people every day. I teach this stuff to people and I guide people on this stuff. And when your frequency is not up high enough, you see everything through your eyes on a 3D vision. Okay, your 3D eyes are not going to pick up what your 4 and 5D eyes are. And the only way you're going to get that type of vision is through a higher frequency. So you're looking at it through a low frequency vision. So when you look out your window, if you're sitting at home and you look out the window and you're seeing with 3D vision, you're only going to see a limited amount of things. But once that frequency comes up, you start seeing in a fourth and fifth dimensional viewpoint, and it is amazing what you see. The world that you see in a 3D vision is the world that you think that it is. It's not. That's what you're allowed to see at that point in time. But it's a fallacy. It's not the real world out there. And then as things open up, as you're open to it, as your frequency rises, your consciousness starts to awaken, and you start looking out and you're able to see what's really there. And it's astounding. And, my clients and the kids that I work with, this happens all the time. And they start working on raising that frequency and doing the energy work and bringing all that up. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. And this is what I'm seeing. I can't believe it. But it's real. But we limit ourselves when we are closed-minded about it and our frequency is down. It just shuts everything down.
I think you explained that perfectly, Robin. Seeing in 3D and not being able to see into that other dimension unless you have enlightened yourself or opened your mind up to that possibility.
Exactly.
Into doing that. Well, I appreciate you coming through tonight, Robin. It was a pleasure speaking to you for the first time.
Oh, it was great talking to you.
Yeah,
You have to stay in touch with me.
We will do that, Robin. So everybody, Robin Haynes, thanks so much for coming through, Robin.
Oh, thank you. It was great to meet you. What a privilege.
No problem. You take care.
You take care, sweetie. Bye, everybody.
All right, guys. That was so awesome meeting Robin Haynes tonight. It's just a lot of stuff I'm getting to do tonight, right? It's just fun time for me. But you guys don't go anywhere. We still have about 30 minutes left here at Spaced Out Radio for tonight. And we'll be getting into some real good stuff. So don't you go anywhere. And then make sure that you guys come and see the After Hours on Saturday with Jason Gleaves. It's going to be epic. You guys don't go anywhere. All right. Good to go. All right. So we're on break here. And so got to see what we're going to do here, right? So this is normally Dave 101 night. Dave said, go ahead and do a Rob 101. I got to think of something. I mean, I'm sure I could rant on something for sure. How about you guys pick the topic for the 101 and we'll run with it. I'm checking the chat. Anybody, you guys pick the topic for 101 and we'll spitball. We got about 3 minutes left here before we come back. And I am checking the chat. So if you guys have anything you want to cover for a 101, the Rage of Rob, Castle dude, nice. I like that. 101. It's Dave 101 normally, where he says, get off my lawn and kind of rants and complains about stuff. That is the 101, the Dave 101. So he says, Rob, you can do the Rob 101 tonight. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I have anything, but we can talk. We can definitely chat. Jim, biogenesis. Elaborate, sir. Elaborate. Valiant Thor. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I'm versed enough on Valiant Thor to really be able to jump into that or really have an opinion, right? Like a strong opinion. Yes, Lovey Love. There is a replay happening over at the Social Dig, and thank you for bringing that up because I totally would have missed saying that here. Right after this show, there is a replay on my channel, which is the Social Dig, which you may not even know I have a channel, right? First of all, I do have a personal channel, which is called The Social Dig. It is youtube.com/at Mr. Rob G. And there is actually some pretty awesome stuff over there. We had the Reverend Michael Carter on recently. Tim Senor's very first interview where he talks about what happened to him is also there. So you can go and check that out. A lot of great interviews. We have at least 100 or more episodes over there that you can dip into. Our chat member, Aloha Dave, actually came on and talked about his experience with the phenomena. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff over there. But tonight, let me see who we have on there tonight. It is, give me just a moment before we come back from break. It is tonight we have the conversation we had with Agi Nast, which is about universal consciousness, our connection with ETs, and much more. I do remember that show. It was a really great conversation. So if you're in the chat and you like to keep the chat going, a lot of people do after this show, you can move right over there right after this show and continue the conversation. All right, so here we go. Coming back from break here. All right, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio as we go ahead and jump into the last 30 minutes of the show here, filling in for Dave Scott, who is having technical issues at home. But yes, your guy has stepped in to save the day, and we had an awesome show. So if you missed anything that happened tonight, make sure to jump in our archives, youtube.com/at Spaced Out Radio, and you will listen to an awesome conversation that we had with Kevin Day. And I would definitely want to thank Kevin Day, first of all, again, for coming in and just sharing and being a real person and sharing who he is. And maybe that's the direction we can go tonight. Let's go ahead and do this. So I don't have any 101 music, but I will jump in. We can jump into some conversation. I think as far as where we are at, right? So in pure intent, and I think that might be a good thing to talk about. Kevin Day brought that up, and the law of intention and just intent, and does it really manifest what it is that we may deal with here going forward. And I think it does. I think he made a lot of sense by talking about that tonight. We have a scenario where we have senses. We have it's 5 senses that we know of, right? Touch, smell, hearing, taste, sight, right? Vision. What if we had more? I think we do. I think we're finding out, and I think we're realizing that intuition, psychic abilities, all the remote viewing, those abilities. I think once it comes down to it, we will probably have a long list of abilities that we will end up tapping into. And I think intention, as Kevin Day talked about, is probably one of those things too, because as scary as it sounds, and I've heard Billy Carson talk about this, right? I've heard Billy Carson talk about, manifesting, and having the thought and then drawing or attracting that thing to you based on that. And that's how you manifest things. And I thought when I heard him say that, and then hear what Kevin Day says about his thoughts or his theory on intention, I think there's something real there. You know, I'll tell you, recently I've had a situation where I could literally look at this potentially as a coincidence. It is something that it could be a coincidence, right? But I sat here. You guys probably were in the chat the day this happened. I had an earthquake here, right? Now, I'll tell you, 18 hours before that, it was about 2 in the morning here on the West Coast, Pacific time, 2 in the morning. Happened to be up maybe editing or doing something along those lines. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I was watching a show on this town that I live in. I live in the city of Bakersfield, Southern California. And this show was specifically about an earthquake that happened here in this city back in 1952. Okay. I watched the full episode. You know, it did a lot of damage to the city. They had to rebuild. That's why if you come here, there really aren't any buildings from the early 1900s because they were all destroyed. So they had to rebuild. And we have a lot more modern buildings here. Modern in the sense that they're not Victorian era buildings, but huge fire, huge earthquake, 7.3 on the scale. And after that show was over, you know, I sat and thought about it because as funny as you would think, right? I live in California. You think there's earthquakes here all the time, which there are, but you don't really feel the small ones, right? You really only notice the big ones, the larger ones that shake buildings or, you know, get things moving, right? So, I'm sitting thinking, okay, we don't really have a plan. What do we do in an event like that? If it happened before 7.3, it could happen again. A lot of houses out here have gas pipe or stoves, gas coming into the house, period. So a lot of these houses could experience situations where you may have a gas line break or rupture, and then here you go, now you're in this whole other situation. So I'm just thinking it through. I'm just like, okay, what will we do? Will we do this? We do that? Okay, the kids go here, everybody on the table. Do we have a plan? Let's put a plan together. And you know, I sat and thought about that, contemplating for maybe 2 hours after the show finished, and I'm just sitting locked into thinking about this. And literally 15, 16 hours later, we end up having a sizable earthquake here that's centered right here in this city. 5.6 earthquake shook the house. Everybody was scared in the moment, you know, the kids. And it just struck me as I just went through this thought process literally less than 24 hours before. Was it the thought process that brought this situation in? Did it manifest itself because I sat here and dwelled on what would we do? And a lot of those things just lined up. I mean, at the end of the day, you could just see that as a coincidence. Some see it as synchronicity. And I really don't, I'm not going to say one way or the other because I don't want to sway anyone. I just want to put that information out there and then let you decide, what do you think that is? Because if it's manifestation, then that is a real ability. Then there's something to that. And I'm sure if I could sit here and think about other situations, well, I guess we could talk about, as I spoke with Kevin Day as well, about the UFO sighting that I had. I had no sightings prior to that. I had nothing that I could say was a UFO prior to my sighting. Then when I had one, it was so over the top, you know, with so many different objects that, you know, was that something that I drew in, an experience that I drew to me? Because as I've told this story, I was on a different show. I was like a co-host or crew member on a different show with my guy Roderick Martin. You may know Roderick. And you know, we talked to a reptilian channeler. And so at the time, I had no sighting during the conversation that we were having. I hadn't had a sighting yet. And, you know, he was telling us a story about some reptilians, and I couldn't even really remember the conversation, but I will say this. I guess he picked up on an energy that maybe I didn't believe what he was saying, or maybe, you know, I didn't really buy into the story that he was giving us at that moment. And he asked me, and he also asked a friend of mine who was also on the show, Mateo. Shout out to Mateo. He asked us both, would you be open to meeting one of these extraterrestrials, the ones he was speaking about? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'd totally be open to that. And he kind of said, okay. So 7 days later, maybe 6 or 7 days later, first time in my life, I have an over-the-top UFO sighting with 47 objects. Now, some could say that the conversation that we had kind of drew that experience in, because I agreed to sit down and have a conversation if he was able to facilitate that with the particular extraterrestrials he was talking about. So are the two things related? I'm not going to say that they are, but that's for you to decide. You know, is that synchronicity? Is that manifesting? Did I draw that experience for myself? I don't know. I can't really say. But the more we talk about the power of intent, you know, and the power of manifestation, and just other abilities that we have, essentially, that we have not tapped into, you have to start thinking about it. It's like, well, maybe, you know, maybe you're able to do that. You know, if you can sit up and think about another person who is miles away, and then they just happen to call you, like, if you could do that, essentially you manifested that in a way, right? I don't, you know, it's the more you think it through and the more you consider it, maybe it's something that we're able to do. But like I said, I don't want to ever come across as someone that's telling you, hey, this is the truth. This is the truth. I can only speak to what I've experienced, right? And I've been able to luckily have receipts and bring those to kind of back up the things that I say. But at the same time, you know, I don't ever want to sway a person one way or the other. If I have evidence, look at it, and then still you decide. You may look at my evidence and you may not agree with it. Okay, that's cool. You know, but I really feel, and just from talking to a lot, which I'm blessed to be able to do that, to talk to all these different people who have spent their own time researching in these specific different fields, and then being able to sit down and kind of pick their brains and kind of absorb 50 years of research, or, you know what I mean, in a synopsis, in a small little bite-sized bite. A lot of the key things that a person who may have spent 50 years of their life researching and putting together, you know what I mean? And so kind of blessed to be in a situation, and just more and more people that we have these conversations with, you know, it would appear that this manifestation thing really might be a thing. So, you know, I'm totally looking forward to the day that we have that moment where kids that are being born, like the newest generation, whatever they're going to call themselves, generation, I don't know, but whatever generation, the new generation that comes in from birth, being born with these extra abilities unlocked, like, you know, what is that going to be like? What is that going to look like if you're able to manifest on demand, sort of thing? You know what I mean? Like, how does that change things? How does that change the world? Does it make it a better place? Could that ability to manifest be harnessed for evil? does manifestation even work if you have evil thoughts? You know what I mean? I guess those bridges will kind of cross when we get there. But I think, I think we know for sure at this point that we at least for sure have more than the five senses that we're aware of. And, it's just going to be really interesting to tap into um, some of these things that seem to be locked, that have been suppressed by the society that we live in, for one. And one thing I did want to point out here is, it's going to be tough, right? That we're in a disclosure moment, and things are going to have to change. And some people, I asked Kevin Day about that. Some people, catastrophic disclosure versus controlled disclosure is going to be. We're going to have a period of time. I feel like I can't read the future, right? I can just speculate on this. So this may not even end up being true, but it may. And that's kind of what we have to do. But, I think there's going to be a point in time where we really have to sit back and decide as a group, as humanity as a whole, if we are cool with the way things are structured in the way we currently run this planet, the way society is built. And do we like this model? Is this a model that we would like to have going forward? I think those are tough conversations that we will have to have between now and disclosure, because we need to get behind the ball, right? And have these conversations before these moments come up, because there are definitely decisions that we will have to make as a group as far as going forward. And another thing I'll talk about real quick is just the process of that, because in my theory, just things I've thought about, I've thought about, and I have actually done a show about this, where worst case scenario, with in disclosure, post disclosure, like worst case scenario, a neutral sort of middle ground, which essentially is everything stays as it is, we get on the other side, and then I had a best case scenario. So I think those things through, and I think that I feel like there's going to be a period of time where we are going to, once we get the realization, we're going to have to go through a period of rethinking and rebuilding. And I don't really, I look forward to it because I know we have to get there, but I'm thinking about the time that it will take to get through that phase. Like, hopefully the learning curve is not a steep curve. I'm hoping that it's something that we could pretty much integrate quickly, so we don't spend the first 20 years of our children or grandchildren's lives, or this new generation that comes in, spend the first 20, 30 years of their life trying to figure it out. But I guess that's really not bad when you look at the fact that we've been suppressed for way longer than that, in order to get to that place. So I'm just hoping that we can get through that rough patch pretty quick. I think it's going to be scary for a lot of people. I spoke to my brother who may be watching the show tonight, and I told him, he told me, as far as this ET thing goes, I'm not really, dealing with it. I'm not really on that. And I'm like, I told him, I'm like, hey, there's a time you're going to have to deal with this. It's going to, you can ignore it for as long as you like, if that's what you do, if that's what floats your boat. But this is unescapable, right? The moment that we're in and what we're going to have to deal with, good or bad, whatever it happens to be, it's an unescapable time in humanity's history. And you kind of have to, it would be better to confront it head on instead of waiting until it finds you, If you wait until it finds you, I think you've waited too long. So it's the message that I put out there, and I guess we could pretty much get ready to end it there. That is a Rob 101, right? I guess that's a rant. I guess I don't have any fancy music to close it out with, but I think that's a fancy or an actual rant there that I think makes good. And here's another thing. Let me leave you with this. This is kind of deep right here, and I've said this on my own show. I want you to think about this, right? And this is how bad, like, if someone hasn't considered what society is and how it's unfair when you look at globally, how we think it's okay here in America, or even westernized countries that have decent economies. But when you look at the third world countries who don't have it as great, right? We're all living on the same world. And one is at one end of the spectrum, one's at the other end of the spectrum. So I think here, and I'll just use America because that's where I live. You look at America and you're satisfied with what we have, like the system that we have, the financial structure, the economic structure, I should say. And, you're fine. You feel okay. I have a job. I can, pay my bills. I can, pay my rent. I can do those things. But I sat back one day and I thought about this, and this is what I'll leave you with. The system that we have, the society that we have, which we kind of say is a comfortable society, when you look at this, it's already predestined for what you're going to do in your life, or at least the basic plan, which is go to school as a kid, hit 18, in most cases, join the workforce, whatever you choose to do, pick up a trade, go into the workforce, and then work that in that position, or other positions, just working, period, within the whole structure of working, and then retire at 65, 70, right? So that would be, we'll just round it down. We'll just say 45 years of work essentially after you turn 18 before you hit retirement. And I did the math on this. I sat and crunched numbers one day and I said, okay, I looked at the total amount of earnings in a lifetime, and it hit me. And I was like, wait a minute, let me do this again. And I did the math again. And it still came out to, so we're going to cut taxes out. We're not going to talk taxes. But if someone came to you at 18 years old and said, okay, here's a check for $2.5 million. They're coming to you with a check, cold hard check. You can cash it. It's a good check. It's not going to bounce here. $2.5 million at 18. But if you take this, you're going to have to work for me every day for the next 45 years. What would you say to that? Would you agree? Would you agree to take a $2 million check, $2.5 million check at the age of 18 in return for working for someone for 45 years? I think think about that, right? That's if you work every day. Well, not every, weekends off, obviously, but 45 years of normal work, Monday through Friday, making maybe $50,000, I think was the calculation, like $50,000 a year, which is okay for some people, and a lot of people feel okay with that. You only net like $2.5 million before taxes. Is really less than that. So if someone came to you at 18 years old with a check for that amount of money, do you feel like you're worth more than that? The answer would probably be yes, and you probably would turn that check down. But essentially, that's what we're doing in the best country in the world, in the freest country in the world. That's exactly the agreements that we're taking. And in other countries that aren't as economically strong, they're taking a lot less than that. Right? So these are the main reasons why things have to change. I'll leave you with that. This has been a Rob 101. Think about that, though. And then when you talk to someone out there, who's kind of blinded by what society provides, which are a lot of distractions, present that to them. Every time I present that to someone, they immediately get offended by the proposition of being undervalued, right? And I think that's something that people should think about. So that's the Rob 101. Let's get ready to get up out of here. Let's get up out of here. So I definitely want to thank everybody for coming on in. It's been a pleasure. It was a last minute thing, stepping in and getting this thing done, which is why we had to start the show late today, because we had to make sure I set everything up. But, you know, Mother Nature willing, we'll have Dave Scott back tomorrow. Other than that, definitely want to thank everybody for coming. Let me see. Do we have anything? Yeah. Love you, love. We're poor for such a rich nation, is all I'm saying. I'm just saying, do the math. Do the math. And then ask, when you get that total on that calculator, ask yourself if you would have accepted that number at 18 years old in exchange for working for the next 45 years. I can almost guarantee you answer will be no. And there it is. So you guys have a great rest of your night. Normally, when I'm doing my setup, I have all my other stuff ready to go, but I don't have any of the closeout music. So we'll be closing out with the After Hours theme. And let me get it right here. All right. So, yep, it's been a pleasure. Definitely want to thank everyone that came in. Want to thank Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Dog right here for keeping us rocking out each and every weekend, as he reminds us to never say never again. Because, yes, that phenomena is real, and there's not really much we can do about it, right? With that being said, definitely want to thank everybody for coming out, wherever you're listening from in the world. Thanks for coming. Oh, and by the way, come on over to to the Social Dig. We definitely have something going on over there right now. I forgot to tell you. Head right on over there as soon as this show closes. Take care.
Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. Spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today. And make yourself look good.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.